Kia ora NDF community. My name is Lucie Paterson and I'm Head of Experience, Product and Digital at ACMI, the National Museum of Screen Culture in Australia. I'm also an NDF board member and have been planning this conference, so I really hope you're enjoying it so far. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a white woman with medium length blonde hair, wearing glasses and a blue denim shirt, sitting on a red cinema seat in a cinema. I'd like to acknowledge firstly the traditional owners of the country that I live and work on today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture and pay my respects to elders past and present. Sovereignty has never been ceded. So how do museums fulfil their mandate to be for all of their public? In 2010, Nancy Proctor asked, what is the museum's responsibility to those who may never be able to visit the physical museum in person? And how can museums engage online audiences on all the platforms they now use with the same degree of impact, if not the same kind of experience as the real-world museum encounter? Before the pandemic, it was difficult to make the case for resources to reach all of your public, wherever they were, because we were so focused on bringing people into the building. The pandemic has accelerated the process of investing in the multi-platform museum because so many museums were shut, meaning their publics could not reach them in person. So what does this mean for how we operate, for skill and capability building, and for budgeting? Fast forward to 2021, the Great Unbundling report states that UK e-commerce is now 40% of all retail revenue and online grocery has doubled. With the pandemic, industries were forced to experiment and consumers were forced to adopt across all aspects of their lives. Museums have always responded to the times. In a 2020 article, Seb Chan traces museum technology through the decades. Museums with radio stations in the 40s and television channels in the 90s. Much earlier than this, museums were doing outreach into communities. This was not digital outreach, but it was for the same purpose of increased scale and reach, going beyond geographic borders. This, of course, still happens. He writes about the early 2000s as being the social era, and I remember Flickr Commons launching and Wikipedian in residence projects were very popular at the time. I remember my first NDF conference in 2009. I was working at Te Papa and the colossal squid was in the building, and streaming to homes and schools all over the world via YouTube. And in the 2010s, the mobile era, I was working as a digital producer at Southbank Centre in London. Significant budget was allocated for digital marketing campaigns for every festival and exhibition to outsource the design and development of microsites and apps. At the time, not understanding the impact these one-off builds would have on the organisation, a suboptimal user experience, the loss of internal knowledge, and projects not being maintained because they were not on museum-owned infrastructure. What might be some of the contributing factors that means museums need to be responding in a new way right now? Increased ease of access and use of digital technology in every aspect of our lives is something to consider, thinking back to the Great Unbundling report. Mobile phones are now personal networked computers and we take them with us everywhere. This year, Statista reported there are 15 billion phones worldwide and growing. That's almost 2 phones per person. Audiences are spending more time locally, limiting their movement and activities. We are seeing data about regional tourism and the flow of city dwellers making sea and tree changes. And the business of home entertainment like Netflix is huge, with providers like Disney producing content for the home. So how do we think the purpose of the museum needs to respond in this moment? And why does a multi-platform museum matter? 2021 Audience Outlook Monitor reported that 53% of people recently participated with arts and culture online, and 73% see an ongoing role for digital arts and culture in their lives. In Australia, disabled audiences are participating online to a greater extent than non-disabled audiences, and many plan to continue long term. In October last year, The Guardian reported 50% of UK theatres streaming shows online during COVID have reverted to in-person only. The evidence points to consumers wanting digital access to arts and culture. Our sector has increased its reach during this time and has provided more access than ever before. So with all of that in mind, it sounds like being a multi-platform museum is fundamental to the museum remaining relevant and fulfilling its purpose. So what might a multi-platform museum be now? We need to consider this in the context of what is web native and what does it mean for a museum to be native on the internet. It's about delivering to its public no matter where they are, innovation, experimentation and ongoing transformation, the journey of increasing digital literacy and fluency for all its staff, advocacy and understanding of digital and technology at executive and board level, delivering experiences that are fit for audience and platform purpose and need, strategically designing with users at the centre, and preserving their digital collections for the same reasons they do their physical collections. You might be thinking about your own organisation and how it approaches reaching audiences beyond the physical. If you think of the fundamentals of a museum, the only way to meet those principles is to be multi-platform. I'd suggest that it's about something deeper than publishing content on social media or putting a 3D virtual tour of an exhibition on your website. So, what could a multi-platform museum look like? In October 2020, ACMI relaunched as a multi-platform museum. We had been closed for a $4 million architectural, programmatic and technological transformation. Katrina Sedgwick, ACMI Director and CEO, said, "The new ACMI will deliver an immensely rich experience that people can engage with in new ways, at home, on their devices and here at the museum itself." When the physical museum reopening was delayed with the pandemic, we thought, what is the best way to tell our story to people in their homes? The story of the moving image online consists of 5 long-form interactive articles that introduce the user to the key histories of screen culture in Australia. We could have put the already written interpretation panels, labels, images and works online, analog to digital, but we wanted to produce an experience that was digital first and added something fit for purpose and also stories that we were not telling somewhere else. Lastly, it needed to be something that was on our own website and owned infrastructure. Similarly, Cinema 3 launched before the physical museum launched. Cinema 3 is an online cinema in addition to our 2 physical cinemas. It complements our cinema program, but more importantly, it allows us to broaden our reach geographically and lets us increase the scale because we are not constrained by how many sessions we can deliver in a day. It's a new piece of infrastructure for the museum and a new revenue stream. We have over 13,000 users on the platform since launching in November 2020, and as an audience development tool, it's been immensely successful. It's allowed us to market other programs to these users, program content just for them to keep them on the platform, and increase the customer base through offers. And it's not only film on the platform, but also TV, education programs, public programs, and partner film festivals. We continue to experiment and it continues to expand. Gallery 5 is where we present online exhibitions and performances. It's part of our website and we commission artists to produce work for it and acquire them into our collection. And lastly, when we reopened the physical museum in February 2021, we launched with The Lens. Every visitor to our centrepiece exhibition, The Story of the Moving Image, gets a lens. The cardboard disc allows you to collect media, artworks and things you make, and they're waiting for you online after your visit. Chief Experience Officer Seb Chan said, "It makes the knowledge held by our curators and communities accessible to our visitors wherever they are, allowing them to go much deeper into film, TV, video games and contemporary art." And what we hope is that after being to ACMI, the Lens experience will diversify what our visitors consume and get them to watch and play things in new ways. It's built on custom infrastructure called XOS, the Experience Operating System. XOS is a database of content from our collection management system, our curators, and content from the internet via APIs. It translates that content, puts it in front of visitors when they log in with their lens. As Katrina said, COVID-19 may have slowed the physical transformation of the museum, but it also presented an opportunity to accelerate our digital expansion. It has validated our focus on and investment in the technology that will drive our museum into the future. So what does it mean to be a multi-platform museum? Most importantly, this is not a flash in the pan for lockdown. It's an ongoing transformation. Our commitment to reaching our public where they are is upfront in our 5-year corporate plan. Transform ACMI into a multi-platform museum through an ongoing process of digitalisation. So what does it mean to be a multi-platform museum now? I would suggest it's about investing in an ongoing process of digitalisation, experimenting with new audience engagement strategies, putting visitors at the centre of your design, being data informed with an eye on the future, maintaining and innovating the new thing, working transparently internally and externally, and increasing the digital literacy and fluency of your staff. That might all seem like a lot of hard work, and that's because it is. But now that it's done and we have laid the foundation, we can enjoy the fruits of our labour. What Seb Chan and others have been writing about is thinking about technology as a garden. But now that XOS and other soft infrastructure is built and we look into the future, the garden might be a useful way of understanding both the ongoing commitment needed and the ongoing opportunity it brings. A garden requires a continuous process of being tended to, and understanding that through seasons the garden will change and the produce will change, but the care and maintenance is ongoing, and that's the transformation. To finish up, I have some questions for you. How can your museum use this crisis, or perhaps the next capital project, to change the mission and your audience? What is the museum for and who is it for? This will happen again, it's not the last time. So what is the relevance of your organisation now? Infrastructure is for capacity building. It helps us to deliver what we know now, and then it makes it cheaper and easier for us to do things into the future. What soft infrastructure is required to deliver your new museum mission to your new audience? How can your museum start treating every exhibition as an opportunity to try a new audience engagement strategy? Experiment and see where it might take you. How can your museum open up and make your work more transparent internally with your teams and other teams, but also externally? The use of Slack, Trello and Confluence has really helped us to do this. The skills of museum staff are always behind consumer technology. Many staff have better IT gear at home than they do at work. So how can you continually upskill staff so that you're effectively operationalising the new skills? Benchmark where you are and go from there. Thank you and happy gardening.
So kia ora, Lucie, and thank you for joining us, and thank you for that incredible talk. It's always so amazing to hear whatever ACMI is up to, and yeah, blowing us away as always. So we've got time for some questions now. And I guess the first one is, so you mentioned about how the pandemic was a catalyst for a lot of funding and resources to be put towards digital for a lot of the museums. However, it strikes me that you guys are already well underway with your digital planning and resourcing and everything in order to be, launching in 2020. So how did that come about?
Thanks, Dana, and thanks for having me. It's been really great to be here. So yeah, I think Katrina, our CEO, had always wanted to make ACMI a quite digital and transformative offer because of the media and the type of museum that we are. We're not sort of social history or traditional sort of, object-based we are a museum of screen culture and media, so it's mostly digital material. So it sort of makes sense. And then when Seb Chan started as Chief Experience Officer in, I think, 2015 or 14, he'd done the pen at Cooper Hewitt, which is a very similar proposition in that you're collecting and remixing a lot of the work from the exhibition. So there were a lot of learnings from that. And I think those two things sort of fused together. But I think, I guess ultimately, like, Seb's always got a great eye on the future and is very good at kind of understanding kind of how things will pan out and what good investment will be for something that's sustainable for a museum. But there's also the user-centered approach, and I think that really just, it goes through all of his work and all of my work. And if you're really thinking about the user, I think that these sort of decisions are quite obvious.
Cool. And so what sort of structure, what's the structure like at ACMI in order to sort of support this, quite a different offer from a more traditional museum? What's the differences there in your team, etc.?
So when I started at ACMI, I had one developer and I was a digital producer / project manager. And it was really interesting understanding how Katrina wanted the organisation to be quite flat and not so hierarchical. So I think there's always that's something that sort of came in quite early, and it was always my remit to work across teams to understand that ultimately we want all these digital skills and capability to be distributed across the organisation. And so even though I only had one direct report and a very tiny team, just me, Seb and Andy, our developer, my remit was across all teams to be working with teams, introducing new ways of working, and transferring the skills and thinking as I go. So that was a completely different approach to where I'd been in the past. And it's definitely slower in terms of the change, but it's actual change. Like you actually see it changing. And now looking back, I just, it kind of blows me away how much we've accomplished.
And so was it quite a job to, I guess, as one of the challenges you could see would be that meeting of the sort of digital mindset and the digital ways of working, meeting that traditional museum structure and museum way. So so how did you find that and how did you overcome it?
I think there was a lot of work that we did around making our work transparent and encouraging other people to make their work transparent so that you had empathy with other teams and what they were doing and understood other teams' priorities and understood where something that you might need to be done fits into their priority. And then you have much more ability to sort of negotiate and understand each other's work. I think that was a huge thing. And collaboration as well, sort of breaking down the silos and getting little project teams to work together, sort of pulling an individual from different teams and then introducing those ways of working. And then those people took those ways back to their teams and it sort of worked like that. I think for the traditional sort of thing, what you were saying, I was sort of looking at Ed Rodley's work, and he has the sort of one of his things that he talks about is the tradition versus design. And I think that's when I read that, I was just like, oh my God, that's just answered so many of the things that I've been struggling with, or challenges at least. And I think with the curators, at least, it came down to showing them, like making a mock-up of something, giving something a go, and just really showing them how it can be used and how audiences respond and sort of giving evidence.
So that design process and sort of user research is pretty critical and key to what you guys are doing there.
Yeah, definitely. We have a lot of experience now in the team. There's sort of 6 of us now, and obviously Seb and others across the organisation. And I think we have a lot of assumptions or sort of hunches of things, and a lot of the time we just go for it. We don't test it. We just go, yep, we've got the experience. We've been doing this a long time. You've just got to trust your instinct on a lot of things. And then if it doesn't work, exactly, yeah. And if it doesn't work, then you can change it, but there's been a couple of sort of, I guess, not failures, but things that we've done with renewal that we've looked back and gone, oh no, we'll pull that. You know, we're not afraid to kind of try it and then go, it didn't work, let everyone know, we won't do that again. But it's good to test and see.
Yeah, that's really great, and such a different approach from the sort of, you know, the 100-year institution and and everything that comes with that. That's kind of all the questions I have, and I think we've reached the 5 minutes. So thank you again for such a great talk, and and for being here, and for also all the work you've done on the conference. It's amazing. I hope everyone's having a great time. So yeah, kia ora, Lucie.
Thank you. Kia ora, Tina.